you ever feel the faintest hesitation vibrating at the back of your throat just before you shape a sentence that you know is not entirely true? And do you sense how quickly that hesitation is pushed aside by the smooth pleasure of hearing the words land without resistance, as if the world itself were complicit in keeping your secret safe? Do you tell yourself there is no harm because the statement is small, only a sprinkle of exaggeration here, a polite omission there, a convenient fiction that spares awkwardness? Does your pulse slow in quiet triumph when the listener nods or laughs, or thanks you for information you fabricated to keep the conversation flowing? You lie, but at what cost? Perhaps you learned to tell such lies young, when praise burned bright and correction stung like ice, and you discovered that bending reality just a little could reroute discomfort without anyone raising an eyebrow. You shaved a few seconds off the story of how late you arrived home. You inflated the score on your mock test. You claimed you understood the assignment when you were lost. These were your first experiments in the laboratory of convenience, and nobody explained the compound interest that would accrue on every slight distortion. Nobody warned you that each time you trade truth for relief, an invisible ledger adds the transaction to a balance that only grows. Years pass, and the stakes climb with your ambitions. A colleague asks if the proposal is ready. You say yes and plan to finish it overnight. A friend asks if their joke offended you. You say of course not and swallow bitterness that ferments in the dark. Your partner asks if you are truly over the incident that bruised you months ago. You say you forgot all about it, though its fingerprints still smudge your mood. You lie, and the ledger records it. Niccolo Machiavelli would watch you with careful interest. He would recognize the maneuver because he chronicled how princes veil intentions in flattery and promises. He would not condemn your craft so long as it purchased an advantage greater than its eventual price. But he would insist that every deception invites a reckoning, because any power purchased on credit must someday be paid in real currency: credibility, loyalty, sleep. Machiavelli, living amid betrayals and exiles, understood how swiftly a kingdom built on partial truths becomes a tinderbox when events demand hard trust. Friedrich Nietzsche would see something sharper. He would watch the lies you tell others and see the larger lie you rehearse alone. The lie that your compromises do not alter the architecture of your character. Each convenient falsehood, be it flattery, deflection, or theatrical enthusiasm, chisels away at the granite of your integrity. Over time, the sleek stone becomes porous. One day, you lean on it for strength and find it hollow. And yet, you justify. You say everyone embellishes. You say honesty can be cruel. You say transparency is a luxury inside a noisy market. You say survival requires smoke and mirrors. You borrow these lines from the chorus of modern rationalizations, and you sing them until they become psalms that soothe the conscience. But something in you resists. Marcus Aurelius named that something long before your era of digital illusions. In his Night Watch meditations, he wrote that death smiles at every man, and all a man can do is smile back. A lie is a way to postpone that meeting, to barter a brief smile now, so that future version of you must frown later. You know this. You feel the hidden cost when you lie to a child and see confusion cloud their still transparent eyes. You feel it when you lie to a mentor and notice how respect dims just 1%, a dimming so subtle that you can almost believe you imagined it. Until months later, you need their trust and find the space between you chillier than you remembered. Sometimes the lie seems heroic. You soften the blow. You offer optimism beyond what the facts warrant, because you hope confidence itself will summon success. Occasionally, it does. More often, the eventual disappointment returns with compound interest, because people remember promises just as they remember debts. The lie becomes a rust that spreads under the paint of your best intentions, and one morning, the beautiful facade of harmony flakes away in sheets. Consider your body. Each lie whispers to your nervous system that the external and internal worlds do not match. Your amygdala cannot parse context. It registers contradiction as risk. Microscopic drips of cortisol leak into the bloodstream. Over time, those drips become streams. Blood pressure climbs. Sleep depth thins. Skin grows pallid. Jaw muscles clench. You think you escaped cost because no one confronted you. Yet your cells have been footing the bill nightly. How does it begin to change? With one moment of radical audit. You stand before a mirror, not to check your hairline or pores, but to ask a question most men avoid. When am I dishonest? You do not let yourself answer with the grand evasions, when required, when forced, when strategic. You ask for specifics. With whom do I exaggerate? Whose esteem am I afraid to lose? Which situations trigger a reflex to camouflage? You write the list, and if your hand trembles, you keep writing until the tremor subsides. Then you observe a single day as a silent witness of yourself. You notice how quickly you say, "no problem," though irritation coils in your throat. You notice how your CV still claims advanced proficiency in a language you abandoned years ago. You notice how you reassure your parents that everything is on track, while bank notifications beep like distant thunder. You do not scold, you record. The point of the audit is not shame, it is measurement. For the first time, you see the denominator of the cost fraction. You feel the weight of partial truths anchor your ankles. What next? A truth fast. Not a purge of all secrecy, not a reckless blurting of private thoughts, but a deliberate vow. For 1 week, I will not state anything I know to be false. You clear the easy tests quickly. You update your CV. You resist the temptation to pretend you read that article everyone references. Harder tests arrive by day 3. A friend asks how you are, and you want to default to the social fiction of fine. But fine is false. You answer differently. Honestly, this week feels heavy. The friend blinks. Maybe conversation deepens. Maybe it ends early. Either way, ledger notes a deposit of candor. The week's fast reveals new energies. Conversations shorten because you stop padding them with filler. Meetings sharpen because you no longer feign agreement. Plans solidify because you no longer promise to attend events you will later evade. You rediscover free pockets of time once consumed by the maintenance of contradictory stories. Will you lose something? Yes. You will lose the cheap thrill of quick approval. You will lose invitations from people who prize comfort over clarity. You will lose certain illusions about yourself, illusions that once felt like scaffolding, but were actually nets, trapping you mid-air. What do you gain? The ability to move through space with a lighter mind, the authority of a voice that matches its echo, the rare power to look into someone's eyes and allow them to trust their perception. You gain the kind of reputation that opens doors unconsciously. Ask him. He'll tell you straight. Opportunities arrive cloaked as problems because leaders know you will not sugarcoat the diagnosis. Friendships distill into a smaller circle that speaks the same dialect of honesty. Partnerships deepen because your no is as trustworthy as your yes. There will still be moments when you will be tempted. A job interview, a sales pitch, a heated argument where the truth will hurt your case. Remember the cost. Remember the ledger. Ask whether the short-term win is worth the long-term corrosion. If panic shouts yes, breathe once, twice, and test the panic. Often the truth delivered with calm lowers the temperature of the room. A buyer values transparency more than gloss. An interviewer recalls your candid admission when deciding whom to trust with responsibility. An opponent calms because you honor the facts. Machiavelli did not claim deception never works. He claimed it works until it doesn't, and when it fails catastrophically. Nietzsche did not claim truth is easy. He claimed it is heavy, and only by lifting heavy things does the soul grow strong. You are responsible for deciding how much strength you want and how much catastrophe you can afford. Look back on the path that brought you here. Which bends in the road were shaped by honesty, which detours by deceit. Trace the chain of consequences. You might find that the most pivotal opportunities were born of one decisive truth told when a lie would have been simpler. You might also find that lingering regrets tie back to distortions you thought were harmless. Now look forward. Envision two futures. One in which you maintain a buffer of convenient fiction, another in which you steadily diminish that buffer until voice, face, and heartbeat align. Which future allows more courage, creativity, and clean rest? Which future would you entrust to your child, your apprentice, your younger self? Which future would laugh less at night because anxiety adds a percussion of potential exposure? The day will come when someone you love will ask you for unvarnished guidance. If you have practiced the truth, you will know how to give a clear reflection. If you have lingered in half-tones, you will be torn between comforting falsehood and raw clarity. Your response will shape their choices. Thus, the cost of lying compounds beyond yourself. It inflates the world with miscalibrated signals that distort other people's maps. There is an older cost, nearly forgotten, yet it surfaces in quiet rooms, the cost of lying to the dead. You whisper stories about who you were, what promises you kept. Legacy is a conversation between memory and fact. When memory invents too much, legacy phrase, speak truth now, and the story they tell of you later will resonate like a well-tuned string. Speak fiction, and future voices will falter when they reach the parts no evidence supports. You lie, but you can choose to calculate consequence before committing. In that calculation, you reclaim agency. You pivot from reflex to deliberate strategy. Then a surprising transformation begins. People start confiding in you. They trust the economy of your words. They pay for your counsel with total candor because they expect equal value in return. Unlike the short-lived highs of deception, this currency appreciates with each transaction. Some will call you rigid. Some will call you blunt. Some will walk away. Bless the clarity. It singles out those whose values align. You need fewer allies when each is forged in mutual truth. You become freer to focus on creation instead of damage control. Free to innovate without fear of hidden scaffolding collapsing. Free to admit mistakes quickly and pivot while momentum still lives. Perhaps the greatest cost of lying is the life unlived beneath its weight. Truth clears the runway for flight plans you once deemed impossible. With more clarity comes faster feedback loops. You fail sooner, you learn sooner, you adjust sooner. Progress speeds not because obstacles vanish, but because you see them without distortion. Vision unclouded is a force multiplier. Stand now at the edge of your next conversation. Feel the impulse to elevate, to embellish, to evade. Pause. Hear the coin drop into the ledger if you choose fantasy. Hear the small door of freedom open if you choose accuracy. The choice will seem minor. In reality, it is the hinge on which entire days swing, and days are the building blocks of your years and the measure by which your story will be told. You lie, but at what cost? Answer honestly, and the cost diminishes at once. Answer dishonestly, and the cost doubles before the echo fades. The ledger is open, the ink is yours. Write lines you can defend without rehearsing. Then watch how swiftly the world rewards a tongue that refuses to bankrupt the soul.